Out-of-home advertising is one of the most creatively expressive and context-driven channels in advertising. But with new technology, evolving formats, and smarter data, executing out-of-home campaigns has become more complex than ever and more exciting. Joining us to unpack how creativity and placement and innovation come together are Ocean Media's out-of-home experts, Jillian Saul and Aileen Reyes. Jillian, Eileen, out-of-home advertising is ubiquitous no matter where you live, but I think not much is understood in the process of how it's bought or how a campaign comes together. Let's start with the classic debate, Eileen. Does creative drive placement, or does placement drive the creative?
I think it really depends on the objective of the campaign. If it's a big brand awareness play, or if the creative is intentional, like if there's a storytelling concept behind it, then, or if the creative is meant to be disruptive, then the creative would drive the placement. And if the creative needs to be seen in specific environments, Times Square, for instance, or like the creative involves transportation where you need to be like a branded train or sequential advertising, sequential boards like a Burma shave on the roadside billboards. That again would be where creative would drive the placement. But if it's meant to target a specific audience, like for instance, take the lawyer ads you see on the roadsides, they will specifically want drivers in case, to keep them top of mind if they're in an accident. So those would be more about the placements driving the creative.
And that personally is my favorite question. Like we could spend the entire segment talking about this. So if anyone wants to talk about it, hit me up. But yeah, it's interesting. There's some really cool examples today, Monday. Stranger Things just launched in London, and they have some really cool executions actually taking into the Tower Bridge what they're doing. So obviously, the placement is going to drive what creative they would do there. And, with BetMGM, we have had some last minute opportunities come aboard. So that we've more had to pigeonhole, okay, we have this, these are our specs. What creative do we need to do that? A recent example, with the Blue Jays taking on the Dodgers, we took over the Union Station last minute and we were able to target the fans going to the games there. So that was really the placement driving the creative. But it's a fascinating conversation. So we can keep going. We don't have to go through the rest of the questions.
That's very true. So once that alignment between creative and placement is set, how can brands use out of home to tell a story, over time rather than just make a single expression? Is it sequential, creative, or multiple touch points across a city? Eileen, what do you think?
I think out of home definitely can be used strategically. It builds a connection with their audience in that market. Sequential advertising or storytelling can build the momentum for a brand by creating anticipation or relevance. When you see a open, like for a store opening, you'll see opening soon or coming soon or opening a specific date like on January 1st, or then it switches to a now open. Another way of doing this is using contextual messaging or weather triggers where if it's cold in the Northeast, you can use that context to advertise like a Florida vacation or a tropical vacation, stuff like that. It helps to also always, those things help build a local connection to the people.
And kind of to add on to what Eileen said, it's really, you have only so much time in out of home dwell time to get the people to do that. So you really need something that resonates. And the great thing too with digital out of home is you can take those things and you can retarget via Made so that you can reserve them on social or different areas like that. And with the advancements in DCO coming on board, I think it's really going to be an exciting time for out of home in the future.
So
Sorry,
go
I have
go
one more
ahead.
thing to note
Yeah.
that if like Jillian mentioned, you can retarget, but I think it's important to keep the messaging consistent across all the media channels. If you're gonna say one thing on TV and in digital, it should be the same for your out of home messaging, because then that will tie it all together for the audience.
That's a great point. Of course, not every great idea fits perfectly into available inventory or timing. How often are creative ideas limited by available inventory or timing, and how can media partners help overcome that?
A lot.
It
I
happens
know that's
all the time.
That's to Aileen, but I mean both. It's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, in a perfect world with out of home, you need to, or an advertiser needs to allow as much lead time as possible, even with creative concepting to what audience you're trying to target. Um, the the more planning and longer planning time involved, the better, just because the out of home inventory is almost like a perishable, right? It once it's gone, it's gone. And if we don't take advantage of booking ahead of time and then getting the creative out on time, you lose all that the impressions that you're trying to garner with your campaign.
And with this year, there are some huge events, or I guess next year, there are some huge events coming up. The World Cup. What else do we have? We have March Madness and the Super Bowl. And kind of going back to Eileen's point, if you want to be around those, so many advertisers want to be around World Cup. We need to start looking now. There's only so much inventory. Programmatic digital out of home is really becoming a thing too, which is kind of exciting because some advertisers are going to say, okay, I don't have 6 or 8 months. I don't know what I'm doing, in 2 weeks. So we can be very flexible with programmatic, but if you want that high impact creative that is going to stop people in their tracks, that definitely is going to book out super early.
So at this point, AI is everywhere in every field, industry, you name it. Aileen, what's the role of AI or data visualization in helping agencies and brands understand the context of their placements before designing?
I think AI plays a big role, especially when you're trying to ideate on creatives and how how an advertiser is envisioning their creative in the environment that they're looking at. You can use AI to take a creative concept and place it on a billboard in Times Square if you want to see what that looks like, without having to, you know, hope, develop this creative and hope for the best that it's enough of a good creative to be in such a profile area. And then with data, I think that would help, especially if you're trying to look for like a specific audience. Like you could find inventory in a specific area of a DMA using like zip codes or heat maps and that type of thing, where you find where your audience over indexes for that product.
Jillian, Eileen, thank you for your time, and thank you all for watching. To learn more about advertising trends, brand strategy, and media investments, visit oceanmediainc.com for all the latest news and insights.